it's Heather, and today I'm going to show you how to paint tree branches. So when I do tree branches, I like to use a number 5 round brush. I just got this at AC Moore, and I like the ones with like the nice long bristles and they come to a point at the end. So I actually don't really use tiny brushes all that much. I like to just use the number 5 and just go very lightly with it. So this is the brush I like to use, and I'm just going to get my brush wet and then dry it gently on its side on the paper towel. And so there's a few things that I like to remember when doing branches. One is has to do with doing the lines. So when you're doing lines, you want to be holding your brush properly. So if say you're doing a line going from left to right, you want to be pulling the brush this way. If you're doing a line up to down, you want to be pulling the bristles down, or down to up, you want to be pulling the bristles up. So I actually have another video on this. It's how to paint thin lines, so you can also go ahead and look at that if you want to. Oh, and then one other thing is this background is actually from another video, which was how to paint a vignette background. So if you want to do a background like this, then you can also check out that video. Alright, so that was one thing, which was how to hold the brush. The other thing is the angles that the branches are coming out. So whenever you're painting branches, you always want it to kind of look like the letter Y. So I'll paint this for you so you can kind of see. So I'm just going to get a little bit of white and mix it with my brown here. And say, for example, I have a branch going like this, and then I want to have a smaller branch coming off of it. Then I'm going to make that smaller branch, and the angle that it's at, it looks like a letter Y. So if I turn it this way, and like it doesn't always have to be a Y the way you'd look at it, like it's if you turn it. But basically what I'm saying is that this right here is pretty much a 45-degree angle. So that's one of the things. Another thing that you always want to remember when you're doing branches is that you always want it to be thinner and get thicker as it goes down, but more to that is that also you always want it to be getting thicker, and you don't want to have a thin part that comes after a thick part. So say, for example, from starting down here, it's thick, it gets thinner, but then it actually gets thicker right here, which is a little weird, and then this part is really thin. So that's a little strange. So you don't want to have it like thick right here and then thin underneath it. So what I would usually do is just get a little more paint and then just go over the part underneath it and just make it at least as thick as what comes after it. So you never want to go thicker with the branches as you go out. You always want it to keep getting thinner. So now that I have that getting thinner, then this part's a little weird because it gets thin so quickly. You want your branches to get thin gradually. So the way that I like to do this, so you can always just draw your branches on like this, or paint your branches on just a thin line at first, which actually is what I usually do like in my classes and stuff, and then we go over it and add the thickness. So when you're going over it, you want to go very thin at the end and then push harder with your brush as you go down. And then the harder you push with your brush, the thicker the branch will get. Now I have seen people do it kind of the opposite, where they will start at the part where the branch is going to come out and then kind of pull it go more lightly towards the end. And that's okay if that's what works for you. But the reason I don't really like to do that very much is because as you're drawing, or as you're painting the branch and you're going lighter with the brush, your brush is also running out of paint. So as you pull up with your brush, you have less and less paint on your brush, and then your branch kind of ghosts at the end there. It's going to be really thin. So see how this paint is actually pretty thin at the end. So that's why I always like to do the opposite. I like to start at the end of the branch so I can get a nice thick paint right here at the end when I have a lot of paint on my brush. and then I'm going to push harder with my brush, which makes sense because that's also when I start to run out of paint too. So it kind of like all works together that way. So, so that's how I like to do that part. So there's another thing that you always want to remember with the branches. You don't want to have a bunch of branches all coming out of the same place. And I see this so many times that people will have like another branch coming out of here and it just looks a little awkward. Like, I don't know, like you'll probably look at it and be like, there's something weird about this tree, but you won't really be able to point out what it is. So what I always like to do is stagger the branches. So we have a branch coming out this way and on the right of the main branch, and then we have another branch on the right. Well, I actually like to stagger it, so I have one on the right, then I would want to add one on the left, and notice that I'm still doing it in that same kind of angle, so it kind of makes like the letter Y. So then I have one on the right. And then this doesn't mean that you can't have a lot of branches. Like, you can have a lot of branches. You just keep branching them out. You don't need to have a bunch all in one spot. So, so what I would actually do if I said this isn't enough branches, first of all, I'm going to add more to my little staggering line. So now I have them staggered here. And then we want to start branching these guys out. So for branching out the smaller ones, we still want to do them like a letter Y. So like I'll branch out on this guy, make a slightly smaller branch here. And so this is a letter Y right here. And then I'm going to add one right here, so this one branches out. And you can also add some staggering on this one. So say I want more than just one branch, that's okay. I'll just stagger it. See? And then I can make this a little bit longer too so that I can stagger it. And sometimes when you're making branches, you may accidentally put the paint a little too thick and you want to take the paint off. So I actually have a separate video on that, which is how to fix your mistakes. So check that out, because I get a lot of people that will make a branch and then they're like, oh, it's too thick. What am I going to do? And then like they'll start painting the background color over it while it's still wet, and it's a big old mess. So yeah, check that video out, how to fix your mistakes, because that will help. So anyways, so we have these branches here, and then we could like add some more on this guy, stagger them out, and then I can even branch off on this guy. But see, notice that I never have multiple branches coming out of one spot. So it's always like one coming out, and then I move up, and then I have one coming out on the other side. So that's very important. Now my brush is kind of starting to dry out. If you notice, like, it's not really painting that well, even though I got more paint on my brush. So every once in a while, you always want to just rinse your brush. And I do this pretty often while I paint. And then just dry it gently on your paper towel. And then you have a nice fresh brush. So it'll also help get you into the habit of, you know, rinsing your brush often, and rinsing your brush, especially like when you're done with your brush, so that, you know, your brushes stay nice and clean. You know, your paint doesn't dry up on them. Alright, so I'm just going to finish this guy up. And then the other thing is, I was just going to show you if you want to do like some or like a tree trunk or something that kind of looks more like wood. So this I basically used white and brown. And the reason why I did that instead of just using the brown, I'll actually show you. It's just because I usually like to mix a little bit of white with my paint, just because it'll be pretty thin without the white, even with the really good quality paints. Like, if I want this to be as dark as this brown that I have right here, then I would probably paint it with the white first, and then after that dries, just go over it with the brown. So if I just grab just the brown and start to paint, it's pretty, or it's like a little bit kind of see-through, and the blue kind of shows through. So this isn't actually the same color as this, because this is brown. If you look at this, this is actually brown with some teal underneath it, with turquoise underneath. And so it's not really giving you the true color. In order to get the true color, you'd want to do something like this branch first, and then go over it with the dark brown. So that said, so I'm taking the white, I'm mixing it with my brown here, and then I will, let's see, I'll try to do like a trunk right here. Oh, actually there's one other thing I wanted to show you, I just remembered with the tree branches. Here, I'll just do this trunk really fast. Okay, so one other tip with the tree branches is that, say that you have some tree branches, so say I have this coming out of the trunk, like this, and then, so say I have that coming out, and then I have like one coming out here, and one coming out here. So this looks okay, but it's not like super amazing looking. I mean, not that, you know, these ones are amazing, but I'm just saying, this is a way that you can make your branches a little more visually appealing. And what it is instead of having this sharp corner right here that goes like this and goes down, you want to round it out. So if I go over this and I just go very softly, then it kind of rounds it out. So I'm kind of already in the habit of it, like as you can see, a lot of these are just like that already. So that's why I kind of forgot to show you, but so it's kind of just smoothing out that corner right there. So right now this is a sharp corner, so I'm going to go over it and just smooth it out. And then this is a sharp corner, so I'm going to go over it and just kind of smooth it out. So now the branches look really nice. So there's that. Alright, so back to the tree trunk. And basically it's really easy to do like a cool looking woody tree trunk. All you want to do is you just want to have a lot of different values in there of brown, or whatever color you're using, like maybe you're going to do grays or something like that. That's cool too. So just taking some white and I'm mixing it with my brown, but I'm not really paying attention to like mixing it exactly the same each time. You kind of want it to be a little different each time. So like I'll just get some white, just kind of swirl it in with the brown, and I'm even just leaving it kind of swirly and marbly looking. I'm not even mixing it all the way. And then I'll just kind of brush it on here. And you could also use a flat brush for this, especially if you're doing a bigger tree trunk, then you would want to use a flat brush because it's going to be a lot of area to cover. But anyways, so you can do that. You can wait for it to dry and add some more texture in, or you can even add it in now if there's not like too much paint. So I'll just add some lines in here. And then once I put those lines on, I can brush over them to blend them more, or I could just leave them. And then I also like to try using a couple different kinds of browns. So I have this dark brown here, so I could get some of this dark brown, and I'm just going to add that in. So I like to add in kind of like some lines in here, and you could leave those like pretty hard, or you can brush over them more and make them softer. So it's all up to you and what you want for your painting. So and then like if you're doing a birch tree, like you could do white and then you can do this kind of thing in gray, so that looks really nice. And by the way, I should have told you the paints I was using in the beginning of the video, I forgot. So Liquitex Basics are pretty much my favorite paint in the world, and they're nice and thick and good quality, but they're not super expensive. So this is burnt sienna and this is burnt umber. So, and then for the white, I just use Dick Blick acrylic white. So, so those are my paints. And so that's pretty much it for the branches. And I hope that this video was helpful for you. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And if you like this, please give it a thumbs up so then I'll know to create more videos like this. So. And have a good day and happy painting. Bye.